I'm muted. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our third CE Forum webinar. Everyone is just joining in right now, so we're just going to wait a couple of minutes before we get started. I just want to let everyone know also that we are recording this session, and we will share a recording in English, Russian, and Portuguese after the meeting. Hi, everyone. For anyone who just joined, we were just waiting a couple of minutes for others to join in. It's now 5 minutes after the hour, so I'll just wait one more minute, I think, before we get started. And then we may have some additional people streaming in. Okay, it looks like we have about 40 people joined in now, so I'm going to start us off. There may be others joining in. Just a reminder again, we are in the process of recording this presentation, the webinar today, so we will share it with everyone afterward. Welcome again. This is the third webinar in our series of CE Forums this year in 2021. I just wanted to, Reva, if you could advance the slide. Thank you. Just want to go over a few housekeeping items for us again today. We have a little bit of a smaller group than we did last month. This is a webinar just for our site level CE staff and CAB partners. So we don't expect over 100 to join today, but still with a small group, we want to make sure that we can hear everyone. So we would ask any speakers to please turn off your videos. Any other participants, please keep your videos off. Keep your microphones muted while you're not speaking. You will have the chat function and the Q&A function open during the whole webinar. So please feel free to submit written questions anytime. And during the Q&A sessions, we will try to address those. We will also have two distinct Q&A sessions after in the middle of the webinar and at the end, so you can ask questions then and we can discuss. We may open all the mics at that point, but at any other point, if you have a question, you can raise your hand and we will call on you. Again, we are providing simultaneous translation in Portuguese and Russian. You can click the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select one of those languages. We are recording all 3 language channels and we'll share those again afterward. Next slide, please. Just very quickly, if there's anyone new on the call, I just want to quickly introduce TB Alliance. We are a not-for-profit organization dedicated to developing new tuberculosis drugs that are faster acting, affordable, and more tolerable to existing medicines. Next slide, please. Today, this is what we're going to be going over. I will just provide a very quick review of what we discussed at last month's webinar in just a moment. And then my colleague, Reva Grimbal, will give a presentation on submitted progress from Q2 of this year from all of the sites. Our partner, Ezio Tavara, will present on some fundamentals of advocacy and how we plan to work on building capacity around preparing for advocacy activities for CABs. We're very pleased to have Sister Mary Francis from Chennai. She worked with Ezio and Gregorio and others on the STREAM trial and started the STREAM CAB. She's going to be joining us today to share her experience in Chennai, building relationships with key policymakers there. Gregorio will give us an overview of what our training rationale is again, and this is just a little bit of giving you a sense of what the whole goal for this series is going to be and what we can expect in some of the upcoming webinars. And then we'll hear from all of you. And so when we get to that part of the agenda, we will invite you to unmute yourself. We will make sure that you're unmuted and then you can each do your presentations. Next slide. So on August 12th, we had a much broader webinar. We invited a broader stakeholder group because we wanted to share the full set of Xenix trial results that were presented at the International AIDS Society Conference in July. Dr. Folu Olugbosi presented the full set of results. These are interim Xenix results. And I just wanted to go over a snapshot of those results today as a refresher, but I would not encourage anyone to use this one slide as a way to share these results. There's a much more comprehensive set of slides that we shared after the last presentation, and we will share them again to make sure that you have them. But essentially, the rationale for the Xenix trial was a follow-on trial to the Nix TB trial, which showed 90% efficacy of the BPAL regimen in 6 months of treatment in XDR, treatment intolerant, and non-responsive MDR TB patients. The treatment in the Nix TB trial included a 1,200 milligram dose of linezolid daily, and that dose of linezolid was it was allowed in that trial to lower that dose or to change the schedule of that dose in response to any side effects, toxicities, etc. The rationale for the Xenix trial was to look at the BPAL regimen again in a 6-month period of time, but in a broader patient population, including XDR, non-responsive, and treatment intolerant MDR patients, but a broader MDR TB patient population as well. And we studied the BPAL regimen in 4 different arms with lower doses of linezolid to see if there were similar efficacy conclusions from this study with potentially lower doses of linezolid and therefore lower incidence of side effects. This is just a snapshot of what we saw in terms of the favorable results. We did see overall a 89.3% favorable outcome, which is very similar to what we saw in the Nix trial. And these are the outcomes for each of the 4 treatment arms: 93% in the Nix TB arm, 88.9% in a 1200 milligram linezolid but shorter duration arm, 90.9% in a 600 milligram treatment arm with linezolid, and 84% in a 9-week shorter duration, lower dose of linezolid. So overall, this does support the same high efficacy of BPAL that we saw in the Nix TB trial, and there does appear to be lower adverse events noted in this trial when we're using lower doses or shorter durations of linezolid. For example, there were more peripheral neuropathies and optic neuropathies in the Nix TB arm, which is the 1200 milligram for 26-week arm, all of which were resolved. And the reduced doses of linezolid, or the shorter duration of linezolid to 600 milligrams or shorter duration, did seem to have still high efficacy and improved safety. The analysis of this data is still ongoing. Patients that were enrolled in this clinical trial are still being followed, and additional data will be shared. Next slide, please. The reason why I just wanted to review this again is because one of our goals is to make sure these results are disseminated properly. And so all of you as partners at the site level will be helping to disseminate these results locally with your trial participants, with your CABs, with other key stakeholders and community members. And what we'd like you to do is start thinking about developing a plan for how you're going to disseminate those results. We would really like to focus on the next quarter, so the next 3-month period, certainly by the end of the year, to have shared these interim results with as many stakeholders as you possibly can. So thinking about who your target audience is, what information you plan to share, when you'd like to do that, where, if you're able to meet with anyone, or how. Likely most of these interactions will be virtual this next few months because of the Delta variant of COVID. We want to make sure all of these interactions are safe. So think ahead about how you might want to share those. What TB Alliance will provide to all of you is the full slide deck for the full set of Xenix results, and we'll review that with you again. We will also provide some messages that can be used to speak through, a presentation or share those results. We'll provide also a draft script that can be used if you're having a phone conversation with the trial participants or other stakeholders. Just as we did with the Nix TB trial, we'll also provide some infographics, just quick little images that can be shared via text or email through a WhatsApp group to explain the top-line results from Xenix. I also wanted to highlight an upcoming opportunity to hear the Xenix results again. The Union Conference is happening in mid-October. There is a registration fee to attend. However, there is a very substantial Community Connect part of this conference that does not require registration at all. And I encourage all of you to take a look at that. We'll make sure that the link is shared with you. There is a session on October 22nd that will have Dr. Oligbosi presenting the Xenix results again. We'll also hear from MSF with a presentation of the TB Practical results, and we'll hear results from the next TB trial as well. The TB CAB that's coordinated by Treatment Action Group will then facilitate an open discussion with those 3 speakers on what it means to have BPAL-containing regimens available and being submitted to WHO for updated guidance in the coming months. So that's a session I wanted to highlight. If there are any other opportunities that come up, we will share those with you. I wanted to just note for you, we will share plans for upcoming webinars as soon as possible, but I just wanted you to all be prepared to start sharing your results dissemination plans, your progress, successes, or challenges with all of us in an upcoming session. With that, I will introduce my colleague Reva, who's going to discuss briefly some progress. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, let me just get my video on. Thanks, Steph. So I just want to, before I get into this, thank everyone for submitting your Q2 progress report. We love hearing from you and we love seeing all your pictures. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but don't worry, I won't go through everything, but we are definitely going to send this out to everyone after, and you can go through it in more in depth. For Q2, thank you to everyone again. We had 20 sites reporting and representing 6 different countries. And there was a lot of activity going on in Q2. On average, groups had CAB meetings at least twice bi-monthly and discussed several different topics in those. For stakeholder engagements, there was at least 1 that groups held for 31 total, and across so many different stakeholders: local regional health, educational authorities, clinical and research staff, NGOs, and even activists and bloggers, which is pretty cool. And there were lots of different topics of engagement. For broader community engagements, there were at least 1 across all sites, and it seems like there were 3,000 or more people reached with all of these different engagements. Despite the fact that people are not as able to meet in person right now due to ongoing COVID, there were a lot of engagements online, which were very interesting. A lot of different social media posts being done, webinars, and different blogs and articles that people could use to reach their communities. And there were a few in-person engagements as well, and those were mostly educational around TB, and they're done in schools doing different presentations, but also in clinics handing out pamphlets and speaking to people who were there. And there were also about 1 training per group. And the trainings, centered around different topics, including GPP, research literacy, advocacy, ethics, as well as research communication and different social and mobilization activities. And folks thought that the trainings and knowledge assessments they did were pretty effective. So that's always great to hear. Let's see here. I did want to highlight 1 impactful event that I saw that looked pretty interesting. So in UCT Lung Institute in South Africa, a local group, the Youth Health Ambassadors, held a youth day, which the UCT CAB was able to join. And it was basically an event incorporating different health topics like TB, HIV, and COVID, gender-based violence, and there was entertainment. And it was reported that the CAB was very excited about youth involvement and impact on the community. We have a great quote from Zani. The youths were not only able to engage with their peers about sensitive topics such as HIV, TB, and gender-based violence, but they were an inspiration to many adults of the community. And I just really wanted to highlight this. I think it's great. And being able to work with some youth groups in the community is just, I think, a really awesome thing to do. So I want to highlight that. We have a few other highlights from sites working on a few different things. In Russia, there's already the dissemination of results that Steph was talking about. There was a presentation done. For the Tropical Disease Foundation in the Philippines, they've been doing lots of different webinars with their stakeholders to basically spread knowledge about TB. In Setshaba, there was a drug awareness exhibition event that was highly attended and successful. And Kilimanjaro and KCRI, they have been really working on building up their CABs, and they plan to have a CAB in every district, which is pretty cool. Finally, we have some CAB and community facts. Basically, a lot of CABs were getting questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. Just a lot of concerns about taking the vaccine and how they can encourage their community members to get vaccinated, and also if they can get vaccinated sooner rather than later themselves so that they're able to help out in the community more. But there were also questions about new drugs and treatment available for DRTB as well. And that's pretty much the summary. Like I said, we will be happy to send out these slides so everyone can check them out more in depth. And again, thank you so much for submitting. We love hearing everything that's going on and all of the great pictures. Yeah, so thanks again. And I will pass it off now to Ezio, who will be speaking more about the fundamentals of advocacy. Thanks.
Thanks, Riva. Hope people can see me well. I'm not sure, yeah, but hopefully yes. Thanks everyone for joining. I see that we have a good audience today. This is the third C Forum. And today we are going to talk a little about the fundamentals of advocacy. Many of you is quite experienced. Many of you have not set specific community engagement activities on your sites, but most of you have capacities on community engagement, and this is not rocket science. Next slide, please. I would like to start by discussing what do we do when we are talking about new medication, new medicines, and when we want to improve the guidelines. For example, we are talking here about to shorten regimens. When we are talking about guidelines or improvement of guidelines or adoption of a new drug, this is policy. This is policy, and we have to understand the policy cycle, how it works. The most important aspect that we'll be concentrating today is in the agenda setting and how communities can be influencing the agenda setting or setting the agenda sometimes. But for that, we have to start by identifying what is the public health problem. So what is our problem? So what do we want to solve? And very importantly, also the stakeholders. Who are the meaningful actors engaged in the policy formulation? Who are these people? Who we want to address when we want to influence agenda setting, etc. We have different assumptions from what a meaningful or stakeholders can be. I mean, we can understand that there are different stakeholders from different perspectives, and we can somehow assume that they are more or less important. But the thing is that policymakers and policy making can be done not only in the bureaucracy of the government, but also by influential groups, by active organizations. It can be done by the industry. It can be done from several aspects. So these actors are all stakeholders. The healthcare workers are also important healthcare workers. They are not only the service providers, the persons providing the care. So we have to understand that the stakeholders are, their rationale will be different. And we tend to judge people for what they should be doing. We tend to think like, oh, this is community. A community guy, well, he cannot speak very well. He cannot express himself well. That's maybe a thinking of a bureaucrat or somebody, or even a researcher. He can think, oh, these guys are not skilled enough to discuss this matter. And then the community actors can think, look, oh, these guys don't understand anything about what are the needs from the communities. I have to tell them, and I mean, we have different assumptions of how the other thinks. We may be right, we may be wrong, but just to think that this is a flexible world. So the point that we want to do is to identify what we want to move ahead with, and to whom we are speaking. Next slide, please. So we have this schema is very good to have the idea of the set of community stakeholders. In the center, trial participants, I would include the fact that the trial researchers and people, the technical people involved in the research, are also in the center of what matters for us today, which we are discussing who are the stakeholders. So the trial participants are stakeholders. I think so. I think most of you agree with that. But definitely the researchers are professionals, and we can think then on the broader stakeholders, where the medical professionals are there, the local media, and NGOs and policymakers outside of the direct community engaged or involved in the trial. And then we have the national stakeholders who are the parliamentarians, the Ministry of Health, media, regulatory agencies, review committees. So these are the national stakeholders. And then we have the global stakeholders, who is WHO, the international NGOs, the trial sponsors, industry, international industry, etc. So we have to have clearly an idea of that. When we talk about stakeholders, we are talking about a variety of members who are not exactly like in this circle, but the circle gives a very good idea how this functions. Next slide, please. So I would advise for us to focus on the policy and technical agenda setting, because this is critical, as we saw in the first slide, that this is fundamental to intervene and to influence policy. So we have first, regarding the stakeholders, as I said before, we have to have clarity on who are you dealing with. Are they government officials, program managers, other policymakers, researchers? Who are the stakeholders? You have to map them. You have to have clarity on that. And you are the ones who have experience of how they function. The dynamics from one place to another can be completely different. Why? Because of what I spoke before. Everything is also depends on different perspectives that people have. People are not exclusively rational. They are not only thinking in rational way, they are influenced by many things. So we have to have understanding of who these people are and how they function. And we have lots of experience that we saw in previous CE forums. You have the answer. You know who are these people and how they function. And we have to always understand from our experience. At this point, when we are discussing dissemination, you guys have already a lot of experience, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, thinking that we are talking about something new. We are talking about something we know. So it's just to organize how we do things. We have to make it clear. The agenda. So what is the intent? What is intended to be discussed? So what is the problem? So what do you want to tackle? What do you want to discuss? This has to be clear. If you are vague on that, oh, I want to discuss public policy. Public policy is a huge set of things. You have to discuss. You have to choose What do you want? And so examples of that is what can you do to have participation in a policymaking forum? For example, to guarantee that advocates will be representatives at the national technical advisory groups. Every government has technical advisory groups who help them setting the guidelines. So how to make sure that communities are represented there? That may be one agenda. It's just an example. Another one is how do you seek participation in wider groups of stakeholders, like national networks or regional networks, like in many areas there are, for example, strong networks in Africa or in Eastern Europe, or international global networks. What is the strategies for community to belong, to make part in a permanent way to this stakeholders groups, so the policy making process. So what are the strategies that we make ourselves valuable? How we seek acknowledgement by other stakeholders that our participation is important. So what is needed for a significant participation? Do we need specific capacities? Do we need somebody who is good in communication? Do we need organizational support or structure to do this work? Or this can also be done in a very simple and humble conditions. So, and also we have to define the methods to set an agenda. And how we are going to do the agenda. So which materials, tools to be used, like communication strategies, electronic info, written and printed materials, and by which means we can do that. So it's what is the structure needed? What is the needed funding to do the work? So we have to be setting action based on that data. And that's what we are doing in the CE forum. We are providing data, we are providing information so that you can do well-documented arguments when you discuss with your stakeholders, when you negotiate any activity. And when should you do this? I mean, this is something that we are going to talk later, and Gregorio also later will be talking about it. So again, for us, it may sound a bit complicated when we talk about policy, but policy is something that is the way we do things. So when we want to change that, we just have to have a clear agenda. And you'll be clear with time that you have all these answers. And we are going to be working together towards the end of the CE forums to have a clear agenda of which methods, what are the strategies, what is our agenda, and with whom we will be talking. So thank you very much. And this is over now to one excellent example of community engagement, which comes from Southeastern India, from the city of Chennai, which is Sister Mary Josephina Francis, who was the stream Chennai CAB coordinator for the last many years. And she is one of the brilliant leaders of community engagement that we want to bring for your knowledge. Sister Mary, over to you. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ezio. The process of conquering credibility and fruitful relations. Happy time to you all. I shall share with you how Stream Chennai CAB conquered credibility and fruitful relations. Before I go to the topic, let me introduce our Stream Chennai Community Advisory Board to you. As you see here in this picture, we are 9 of us, selected from 51 members present in the inaugural workshop of Stream Trial Stage 2 in the National Institute for Research in Tuberculosis in Chennai. We are all representatives from people affected by TB, community-based organizations, and non-governmental organizations. Most of us are with many years of experience, but all of us are with knowledge on how TB impacts the persons with TB. Stream Chennai CAB is the coordinating mechanism of community engagement for Stream Trial Stage 2 at the National Institute for Research in Tuberculosis in Chennai, South India. With this introduction, let me tell you what I mean by credibility and fruitful relations. Credibility is the state of being trusted in and the state of being believed in. Fruitful relations is a state of being in mutual attentiveness, positivity, and coordination, where the stakeholders respect each other's presence, pay attention to each other's views, and create opportunities together. Thus, conquering credibility and fruitful relations is a process of attaining the state of being trusted and believed, and being in mutual attentiveness, positivity, and coordination of the stakeholders. Now, how did we achieve it? That is a process. That is what you see at the center of this circle. Both credibility and fruitful relations did not happen at a time with one advocacy effort. For Stream Chennai CAB, it is a process of advocacy for 3.5 years. It was begun in 2017 when the Stream clinical trial was begun at the Research Institute. And since then, CAB has passed through various stages of trust-building advocacy efforts that resulted in our present status. May I request the one who is operating the computer to press one button? Yeah, in the beginning, both the researchers and the CAB members were new to each other. Therefore, we began to communicate and build rapport between the CAB members and the trial team. It was not just building rapport, but we had to prove that the study team could trust us and consider our views and the views of the community related to the trial. And we had to show that we were a valuable partner in Stream trial. Next verse, please. For this, we prepared a work plan and a budget, got it approved by our sponsor, Vital Strategies, through the union and Ready TB, from which SU and Gregorio come. We also had an SOP from the union that set our boundaries. Again, for all these, there was no roadmap. But we got prepared by Ezio and Gregorio from Ready TB and Gay and Jess from Vital Strategies. However, our relationship with the study team at this time remained at the head level. Next verse, please. But the components of the work plan that included monthly meetings of the CAB members, quarterly review meetings with the study team, annual general CAB meetings, meetings with the policymakers, CAB capacity building of the CAB members, outreach activities to generate awareness on the trial, IEC distribution, psychosocial support to the trial participants, and so on, strengthened the relationship among the CAB members and built CAB as a community engagement mechanism. However, at this stage, the study team became ready to share the study updates and trained the CAB members on various topics related to research, such as clinical research, stream trial stage 1, stage 2, the study protocol, the informed consent, confidentiality, and so on. The webinars and trainings of the ethics research, trainings on the ethics of research and the WHO TB guidelines development process, log frame, etc., arranged by the sponsors and the community engagement coordinators further strengthened our competence. While all these trainings empowered the CAB members, these also increased the confidence of the study team on our knowledge and competence that build up. Next verse, please. Feeling empowered by the trainings, we organized outreach activities to generate awareness on the trial to the NTEP staff, the private practitioners, and the civil society members in collaboration with the study team. They, in turn, began to refer patients with RIF resistance to the trial. As the number of referrals increased, the study team's trust in the CAB members also increased. At this stage, we experienced a kind of transition in the relationship. Positivity and coordination increased between the stakeholders. Simultaneously, we also fostered quality. Quality in terms of CAB members' togetherness, transparency, accountability, stakeholder engagement, ethical practices, flexibility, promptness, and so on. This increased the trust level further and provided the space for credibility. In the meantime, COVID pandemic turned CAB's work plan topsy-turvy. Therefore, we readjusted the work plan and made the rest of the programs online as per the guidance of Vital Strategies and Ready TB. This again improved our impact in the trial and gave us the message, yes, I can trust you. During the pandemic, our CAB fulfilled exactly what the trial team and the trial participants expected from us. When the trial participants were not able to go for job, and when they don't go for job, naturally they were not able to get any money in their hand. So we provided food provision support, PPE kit, pulse oximeter, and so on, along with psychosocial support and literacy on TB trial COVID. Our sponsors and global coordinator were very magnanimous to support us in this effort, changing all the way out the work plan that we already had. This, in fact, raised the trust and amplified CAB's credibility. There was so much of respect shown to CAB members. Our views had enough representation, and the programs were coordinated in due discussions, and ultimately the value of CAB increased. Finally, I would say, please, yeah, the next slide, actually, I did not notice this. Okay, you can press one more, yeah. Finally, I would say that, no, previous one, please. Yes. The Stream Chennai CAB engaged a number of stakeholders, starting from the research institution NIRT, where the trial is implemented. Tambaram Government Hospital, where the patients were initially screened and admitted upon enrollment to the trial. The wider TB program in the state, WHO consultants, several other NGOs who are involving in the healthcare setting for TB care, and the private hospitals that provide healthcare for TB. All these shaped the perspective of the trial team and the TB program stakeholders. Towards the end, the research institution, NIRT, invited the CAB to consult on new studies being implemented at the institute. The NTEP also welcomes us to improve the diagnosis and management of TB in Chennai, at the districts, at the various districts, and at the state level also. This is all about our journey of conquering credibility and fruitful relations. If you need any clarification, I shall respond. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Yeah. Let us light up the lives of the people. Yeah.
Can you explain the candle?
This one. Yeah, this is the traditional lamp we have. You
Yes.
see a peacock on the top and 7 wicks in the Kutti Vilakku, we call it. It's used for all the auspicious occasions. You know, when we light the lamp here, which is equal to candles, special big candles that we use for First Communion or special occasions, like dispelling the darkness and bringing light. This means light brings energy to the participants. So let it bring energy to all of us present here now.
Marvelous, sister. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this fabulous presentation. And thanks for clarifying the process of acknowledgement that I was speaking before by the stakeholders. So you very clearly spoke how was the process of getting acknowledgement and recognition, better saying, from the stakeholders of the power and the benefit of community engagement. I would like you to, I can testimony how the Chennai CAB was recognized already in its first year or so, when we were in Holland for a union conference, when a set of very important Indian stakeholders, researchers and high official from WHO were walking on the streets, and I knew many of them, and they were talking about spontaneously. I didn't provoke any question about the importance of having the CAB in Chennai. So for me, and this was, we were working for a year or so, not much more than that. Yeah, 1 year. That was 2018, and we started in 2017. And for me, that was the big acknowledgement. For those who don't know, NIRT is the most important TB research institution in India. It's not that there are not others. There are fabulous institutions in India, throughout India, incredibly high capacity, high quality institutions. But NIRT is also has also a reference laboratory and a reference for tuberculosis research in India. So it's quite an important center. And sister, could you quickly say how did you, how it was, in few words, how was in the beginning, for example, when you were describing that the path was not clear, that you didn't know exactly how to move, till the point that NIRT board also were inviting you guys to engage in other research follow-up and engaging in other studies. How can you talk about this progress? in such a few years. Sister, over to you.
In the beginning, we really had to explain ourselves what we could do and how beneficial it would be for the trial participants and the society at large if we people from the CAB involved. Initially, it was a bit challenging to understand because until then, I heard that there was a community advisory board, but not this style of functioning one. So also all CAB members were not familiar to the research institution. This was again a challenge. So the question of what would the new team do? How would they take this message? How would we maintain confidentiality? All these were there. But then over a period of time when we involved in various programs together, like at the time of receiving training, we participated actively in the trainings, clarified our doubts. And then going for outreach programs, we fixed the dates in collaboration with the team. We went along with the team so that the team would feel confident about us, confident to relate to us. And we had to, if we were not successful with one attempt, we did again and again in a very gentle way, because we understood clearly that they have their space and we have our space, respecting the space of the research institution, for which it is a big challenge to handle such large trial, as well as respecting the space that the CAB should have in the research. We went along with the team. So gradually, while working together and fulfilling exactly the needs of the trial participants and the team, and linking all the stakeholders, the stakeholders began to appreciate our work also. That was additional point that gave us strength. So linking all programs, all the stakeholders, everything together only, I think became what the credibility we enjoy today. Today, if the state TB officer wants some serious program, she calls me and says, "Sister, could you please help us in this?" So that's a good sign that you have trained us, you have given us such a strong foundation, and we are happy that we are also able to contribute in turn to the society.
That's wonderful. Sense? Absolutely, sister. Thank you so much. I mean, you are talking about, you are also giving clear examples of what I was saying before about having stakeholders as non-perfectly rational actors. I mean, we have policy making. It's not a mathematical thing. It's something that depends on people and depends on the mechanisms which are established, the relations, subjective aspects. So we have to have clarity on our agenda, clarity on the stakeholders, the message we want to send, the methods we will have, but we have to have in mind that this depends also in the mood sometimes of one policymaker that can change things. Sometimes the person, high official, is in a good mood. Sometimes he or she is not. All this also influence because the process is not fully rational. So we have to make sure that this is clear to all. We are a bit over the time, but I would like to ask if there is somebody, I don't see any raised hands, or if there is a question pumping. If not, we will let the questions to the end, more to the end. If there is any burning question, can the person raise the hand or open the microphone? For Sister Mary or myself? If not,
It looks like we do have one question from Bravo.
Oh, please. Yes,
as
thank you.
the cab in your community, how
How I
oh, sorry. Are you known as just a TB cab, or is the name known more broadly? Bravo, do you want to, if we didn't get that question properly, just raise your hand and I'm happy to unmute you. Okay, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good day.
Hi.
Hi, Bravo.
Sorry, yes, man, this question has been sitting with me for a long time. So I'm from Delft, Community Advisory Board in Delft. I've been asking these questions ever since COVID has come in, and you guys have known that COVID has brought havoc through our community. But I've been asking this question: is that are we limited to only TB, or is it your community advisory board, is it actually TB, HIV, and yeah, I guess it.
That's a great question, Bravo. I'm happy to pass it to Sister Mary and Ezio as well. But from the TB Alliance perspective, I just want to let you know that through the programs that TB Alliance has supported, we're very happy for your cabs to function with a broad mandate, but to include tuberculosis as a focal point if there is a clinical trial happening in that area. But the support that we provide as a sponsor hopefully will be seed funding that's needed to get cabs developed, to keep them maintained, to keep them building capacity, and hopefully those groups can exist over a long period of time. And that's one of the challenges with sustaining these activities and making sure that they can function in not just TB, but other health areas as well. Ezio, I don't know if you want to add more, Sister Mary.
Sister Mary, and then I can.
I think if the cab is new, it is important to stick on to one particular theme to establish its identity. Now, for example, when we functioned as people for this stream trial. But once we finished the stream trial, then there is a broader focus. We can take up any other researches regarding other TB, Xenix, or any other trials. But to start with, I think it is important to stick on to one particular trial or one particular program and one particular field. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have one more question. Sorry, Ezio, go ahead.
Before we go to the other question, I would just like to complement something. When a cab is formed by community constituencies, so to say. They are composed by representatives of different community-based organizations or faith-based organizations or NGOs, bigger or small, national or international. The CAB is composed by a variety of members who come also with different backgrounds. It's not a homogeneous thing. And so people have different hats. I think the first question was a bit about that. So people wear different hats, and there's nothing wrong about that. The fact that people are, they already know, so to say, the communities or the constituencies already know those persons. They are not new to the hood, to the neighborhood. It's a sensation that you are dealing with somebody you already trust. So when the communities speak back to the a community representative or a CAB member speaks back to their constituencies, to their organizations, to the communities, they are talking with their constituencies, so their peers. So it makes trust is a basic thing. A CAB member is there representing the organization. It has an important role. And we when we form a CAB to a specific study, we want obviously to follow up in that particular study, but we don't, as Stephanie perfectly said, it's just an encouragement to follow up specific studies which are relevant, but it doesn't stay there. I mean, we have here CAB members from different studies, and this is a reality. And we are going to engage in more and more community engagement activities. So let's rush to Kagiso question. How did you convince? I'm sorry. Sorry,
no, that's
Stephanie.
okay. Just from one of the CAB members at Setshaba Research Center in Soshanguve, South Africa, yeah. Sister Mary, can you talk a little bit about how you convinced the community to trust you and believe in the feedback of your study?
We gave the importance of the study. When we gave also the gap that is there, filling the gap by its importance and giving a convincing message. That's what.
Thank you so much. I think, Ezio, we will have to wrap up this Q&A session. Yes. If you don't mind, I just wanted to add one additional comment, which is Please what gets us to go beyond time. But in terms of building that trust and following on from what Sister Mary just said, I think that also applies to building that relationship with policymakers that may be your targets. Sending a genuine message and being convincing, but also sharing the reality of the situation and dedicating some time to building that relationship. There was one thing that both Sister Mary and Ezio said that made me think of this issue. Sometimes policymakers or any of the targets that you may be reaching out to may appear as though they don't have time for you. It's very typical for politicians, policymakers to be extremely busy people, as you all know. And I just wanted to share, just on a personal note, that sometimes it doesn't matter who is setting up a meeting with an NTP manager or some other policymaker. Sometimes that policymaker may just completely forget that they have a meeting with you. So it isn't, that is not a specific experience to any one community member or advocate. It happens to absolutely everyone. And so some patience and dedicated time is required for that. Anyway, I see we have another raised hand, but I think we're going to move to the next set of presentations to hear from all of you, and then we'll spend more time on Q&A at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gregorio de Matos. I'm a project analyst at ReadyTB, the Brazilian Tuberculosis Research Network. I've been working with Ezio and Stephanie, Riva, and the TB Alliance C team throughout the organization of all the webinars within the C Forum. So before we go into the CABs and sites presentations, and we have 20 of them, we thought it would be nice, I mean, it would be good if we could just take a minute and a few steps back, so we present and go over a brief rationale for upcoming webinars, right? So we want to make sure we are all aligned and have a common sense of sequence of today's webinar moving forward. So Today, pretty much, as you can see on the first column, as you had the chance to present the fundamentals, right, the basics of advocacy skills for research advocacy. And we also had the great opportunity to learn from the experience of the stream Chennai Cab through Sister Mary's presentation. Today still, we're gonna be looking and highlighting, I mean, all the goals and all the experiences that the To Be Alliance cabs and sites have had and will have in terms of advocacy initiatives, right? So this will be pretty much the content of today's webinar. So if we look forward, we still have 2 webinars to go, 4 and 5. So the next one planned for October, which is just around the corner. And this next webinar will be then focusing on preparing messages, right? So preparing messages and preparing materials to ensure and to make sure we are on the right track to establish an effective communication. So this is an important tool, as we all agree. We'll be introducing a few aspects and elements of knowledge translation, a communications concept that helps pretty much us building that plan. And hopefully we'll be counting on external speakers to support us in this process. And the second portion of this 4th webinar will be pretty much focused on consolidating the process that we have already started, but consolidating the process of building capacity for cabs and community structures to be exerting political policy influence broadly. So once we have the clarity of the process, and as you covered that earlier today, we should be looking into how we can best structure our actions and initiatives towards policy influence. In the last webinar of the series planned for early November, then we'll be looking into establishing an agenda setting plan. So the focus will be more on agreeing on clear goals, perhaps structuring a formal CAB work plan so that you all can act upon. And again, having clarity on what's lacking on the tools we already have, and having that sense that next year, I mean, all the groups, all the CABs, all the community structures will be working on dissemination efforts and here and there, and no matter what level, but also trying to exert some kind and some level of policy influence, right? So this is it. I have just one slide, and now with no further ado, I would like to just invite the first CAB on our list to present. We're initiating this, I mean, the interactive workshop portion of today's webinar. And the first CAB will be the Aram Institute in Rustenburg, South Africa. Over to Irene. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. This is Irene Muso. I'm from the Aram Institute in South Africa. So our site, it is one of the sites that will be doing the BPEMS, the Siemens study that will assess the safety and the efficacy of the investigational product in male participants in South Africa. So the goal of CAP in this is to ensure that participants are provided with all the information necessary to make informed decisions to participate on the trial. Prior to initiation of approval, The SAPRA and the Ethics Committee ensure that the trial schedule of events or procedures is adequate to identify the safety signal, and the CAP has an opportunity to raise the concern during and per accrual period when the study is on. So they have that right to raise their concern for the study. So the CAP has been working closely with the South African Health Technology Advisory Coalition, which is SATEC, hosted by the Oram Institute, in building the capacity of CAP members in understanding the process involved in approval of medical and health products in all levels. We will continue working with local NGOs as CAP and the site and the Civil Society Forum to ensure that they are informed and updated about the latest research findings and the studies that are currently underway, including the BFAM study in South Africa. And we will also be working together with our key stakeholders, which is Department of Health. So since forming CAP in South Africa around TB Alliance, the three major accomplishments that we have initiated in advocacy in local is that our CAP has been trained in processing undertaking when reviewing the informed consent, which is the ICF. So they are trained to review the ICF and also see if the ICF is relevant and the language that is on the ICF, it will be understandable by our communities. The site is continuing to make efforts to involve CAP in ICF reviews processes. The involvement of CAP therefore ensures that the site is conducting studies that are locally relevant. We don't want to bring the studies that are not locally relevant, whereby our leaders will not accept the study to be conducted in our province or our district. CAP has been part of the Bojanala Civil Society Forum, in which the update relating the trials under investigation and completed trials are provided regularly. And then the very same study that we'll be conducting with the BPEMS trial will be presented in this forum. So during the process of the study and from the beginning until the result dissemination, we engage with different NGOs and civil society around the district to update them on the process of our clinical trials. And then the trial will also be presented to CAP, and the rationale of conducting the trial will be highlighted. So in every meeting, when we have CAP meetings, we've been telling them we'll be starting with the study, but we will give them the full protocol training, and they will be able to ask questions because we were waiting for the local approval. So most of our NGOs here, we don't go and present without having our local approvals from the DOH. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Irene. This was an excellent presentation from Rustenburg in South Africa. Thank you very much. This was quite comprehensive and quite important for us to discuss further. Let's go from South Africa to Tanzania now, to Bagamoyo. Abdulhai.
Could the speaker raise your hand so I can see? I'm not sure which name to unmute. Okay, I'm going to chat with Omar separately and make sure that they have a connection. We can maybe move on and come back.
Okay, so let's now move to Brazil, to Ana Leila. Ana Leila is going to speak in Portuguese, but the slides are in English, and we can make a summary of that. Ana Leila, over to you. Obrigado.
obrigado. Bom dia, boa tarde a todos. Os principais
Good day,
objetivos da divulgação no futuro próximo.
The
O
principal
que se
objectives.
pretende alcançar a erradicar a tuberculose? Nossos objetivos é entender melhor as pesquisas em tuberculose. A
Our
incorporação
objective
das
is to
novas
understand
drogas.
TB research.
Está me ouvindo?
Yes, continua, Ana Leila. Eu tenho que fazer um pouco de resumo do que você está falando. Pode continuar.
Ok.
Perfeito.
Melhora as pesquisas em tuberculose, incorporar as novas drogas ao consenso terapêutico do Ministério da Saúde no Brasil, por meio de acompanhamento dos estudos do processo de incorporação do sistema em saúde. Das
So
demais,
the objective is to better understand the TB research and to follow up studies and the incorporation process in the country.
participação comunitária, mais oportunidade de entendimento sobre o processo por meio de materiais, divulgação das informações, esclarecimentos sobre o tratamento, pesquisa, cura, novos medicamentos e etc. Desenvolver o monitoramento, a aplicação de recursos em tuberculose, por meio de projetos das ações, organizações de base comunitária, sejam apoiadas. Por vezes, a gente tem o dinheiro, mas não temos o material. Quais foram as maiores conquistas desde que o CCAP, Síntese TB Brasil, criado no Brasil? A própria existência do CCAP, que foi uma conquista. Articulações diversas com agentes comunitários, estaduais, articulações diretamente com os pesquisadores, articulações da sociedade civil como um todo. A produção de documentos nacionais, como a nota de posicionamento de 12 de março de 2020, desdobramentos com documentos nacionais, documentos CCAP-TB Brasil, é o próprio levantamento nacional sobre o impacto do Covid-19, melhor atendimento da difícil linguagem da ciência e do tratamento, capacitação para educação em tratamento em pesquisa, melhor entendimento sobre as agências reguladoras.
Muito obrigado, Ana Leila. Desculpe tê-la interrompido, eu vou fazer um resuminho em inglês agora. So, Ana Leila, just to make a short resume, Ana Leila brings from the Brazilian perspective the need to better understand TB research in order for TB eradication, and we do that by the means of follow-up studies and the incorporation process of new guidelines and new drugs in the health system, and then promote more community participation through information, treatment and research literacy, and develop a monitoring. That's an important goal, which is develop a monitoring system, because sometimes, as she says, there is the money, but we don't have the materials. And the existence of the Simplicity TB CAB is seen by the CAB members as one of the achievements. The Simplicity TB CAB is quite important to exist, and it has provided direct interactions with stakeholders and municipal and state level managers. Not only that, but I would add national ones as well, the researchers and other actors, and the elaboration of national documents that the Brazilian CAB has done, and in the education and capacity building. Thank you very much, Ana Leila. We move now to Helen Joseph in Sizwe in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Reva, can you advance the slide by 2? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Helen Joseph, South Africa.
We don't hear you well. I'm sorry. Can you speak a bit closer to the microphone so that we hear you well?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Not very much. Can you try again?
1 2 1 2.
Yeah, this is a bit better. Yeah, if you
Okay.
can. Yeah.
If I can put it like that, okay, I'll read from my book.
It's not very clear. I'm sorry. Can you put the microphone closer to you?
Yeah. Is it okay right now? Hello.
Yes. Yeah. Let's try now.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
CHRU, Helen Joseph, CAP member. Our report as CAP members for advocacy, CAP members' mandate is to continue advocating on behalf of all patients who are struggling socially and financially for better healthcare services. CAP members will be working hand in hand with relevant organizations to make sure that advocacy work is done and proper channels are in place for better healthcare system nationally, provincially, and locally. So locally, we have advocated for Bedaquiline to be reduced to 15 rand per day so that the patients can access the treatment. That campaign was successful. Treatment action campaign made it happen. Another advocacy was done. We needed primary healthcare services facilities to have Bedaquiline because Bedaquiline here in South Africa, we can find it in community healthcare facilities, not in primary healthcare facilities. So we advocated for that so that even the primary healthcare services can have it because it's not easy to go to have transport to go to those facilities that are accessing it. So that also we see now that Bedaquiline is accessible in primary healthcare services because people don't have transport to go. And also due to COVID-19 outbreaks that led to lockdowns, we find ourselves that the patients that are supposed to go to facilities to collect their medication, they are not more going there. So we also advocated for that so that they also be looked for, like they must go back and search for them so that they come back to the facilities. Because when you go to facility monitoring, you find that only 3 people came for the day. So another thing that we need to advocate for in future is for screening of COVID-19 to be linked with screening of TB because symptoms are almost similar. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We heard it a little low, but I think everybody could go through that. We are now calling Xenia from Russia. Xenia, is over to you. Can you hear us well?
I hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Oh,
thank you
perfect.
so much. Xenia in Russia.
Thank you so much. It gives me opportunity to be more always than anyone because my batteries go to off and I can disappear in every moment. I'm sorry if it will be happening soon. Hello, my name is Xenia. I'm from Russia, and for 3 years we do some activities behind of TB Alliance. And thank you for those opportunities because in Russia we have those situations when doctors are not very understood how to communicate with community and what we can do for them. And especially it was very bright to see when we have the first meeting with all the sites, and most of not interesting was the site from Yekaterinburg where our Alexander Chebin work. He was in the previous community engagement meeting, and the first one you can saw him. And his city and his site was totally not interesting. They did not saw our presentation. They did not pay any attention. But when the Alexander gave his word and start to explain them what they do in the city, how can they help to the doctors, to the all institutes, they was so exciting. They did not know that those organizations work in the city. It was very surprising. And after those 3 years, we have very, very good relationships with the site. They contact with us in every moment. They, when we have some difficult patients, they took them, and it's so warm relationships. I'm so happy that it's working for us now, because they Russia, you know, is a very big country, and Ekaterinburg is the middle of the country, and a lot of people from Siberia part of country, it's biggest part of Russia, can go to Ekaterinburg, or we can consult them in this national institute. And so it's our big victory for that. And I talk about our victories here first, and we already have a lot of contacts with the journalists and with the media, but after that we're spreading new information about clinical trials, and we have those very big medical bloggers. It's a TB doctor, and she is totally engaged with the community, and she worked with us. And when we need some conversation, or when we need to do some survey, like those surveys that we did in winter, last winter, she helped us, and we get from her blog like 150 answers, because people are interested to take a part of different surveys, or when someone is interested about the opinion of what's going on in the country, what's going with the COVID and tuberculosis. And this is a great opportunity, because there are 22,000 followers who are interested in TB and interested in news about TB. And we share information about Britomaniate, about short regimens for those medical blogs, and it's very good. I'm so happy that it's happened. And the third that I think that's interesting is that I use first I tell about my project TB Quest. It's like a game about TB with different topics like literature, movies, actors, and so on, about, because history of TB is very big, and we have a lot of people who read about or write about TB, who do movies about people with TB, and it's like a source for those people who don't want to listen about TB in our countries because of stigma. But they're interested in actors, or maybe beautiful movies like Moulin Rouge about, I think you know it. Sorry, my voice has disappeared. And in one of those topics in this TB Quest, it's science and new medicine, and I give to people new information about short regimens in a game form, and they're interesting to know new facts. And many doctors did this TB Quest, and they say that it was a lot of surprising information for them, and I hope that it will be. I do an application to the phones with this name, and we have some engagement for future because we want to do this with medical schools, that they use this application for us engage students to learn new information about TB. And it's our main goal that I want to tell you about them. And about our future plans, it's we want to have permanent in Russia very soon as possible, and we try to understand why we have not those process. So we have those process very slow in Russia, and what's the barriers? Why we have not any information about pre-registration? And we try.
Okay, Xenia. Thank you so much for that. I mean, sorry to cut you, but we have to go to the other participants. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's very exciting to hear you. It's very you have done a lot in Russia, the progress, and I thank you and Alexander and all the colleagues. And I'm so proud of you, your progress in the country, and we are so looking forward to working closer to our Russian partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. And let's now go to eCare Foundation in South Africa. Back to South Africa.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you so much.
Okay, loud and clear. Okay. The first one, which will be removing an orphan mask of TB, stigma on TB, and more educational activities. What does that mean? TB is still regarded as an orphan disease, and since the image of the COVID-19, people are more interested in COVID-19 and forgetting about the TB and even our healthcare system. So that is why that you are saying that we need to remove an orphan mask. And secondly, using radio as a tool in advancing TB literacy and do more on door-to-door activities and prioritizing mostly the advantage areas. So South Africa, more especially KZN, is one of the biggest province, which is very dynamic, is having urban and rural areas. So there are certain areas where we cannot penetrate through due to certain organization are hard hit for the past 8 years due to the funding. So it's very hard sometimes to reach those communities. So radio is one of the best tools. Since forming your CARE around TB Alliance studies, which are 3 major accomplishments in advocacy initiative in your local and the national context, we can do more sensitization of the TB in accountability structures such as the Ward AIDS Council, starting from the grassroots level or in the ward level, and going to the district AIDS Council, provincial, as well as in the South African National AIDS Council, and to prioritize more TB and to influence, to bring about more policy which talk broadly on TB related matters than other diseases, and working with the health facilities in initiating the local based TB campaign and activities. Truly, we without saying, we cannot work alone as the CAP members. So we need strategical jointly with the healthcare system so that we can advance our mandate and to influence them and to penetrate to the most disadvantaged patient, more especially the patient living with TB with their families, and also working closer with the local stakeholders in TB educational activities, and to emphasize more that we cannot work alone. We need to work as a team in the different stakeholders, coming with a different mind to bring down the TB. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation. Let's now go to Mpilweni, still in South Africa. Mary?
Hi everyone, this is Miriam Gotwana from no more Mpilweni, actually from Jose Pearson TB Hospital. We moved from Mpilweni. So the first answer to the question is to participate fully in the Gqeberha, which is former Port Elizabeth Health Forum. This forum is a very vast forum where a lot of stakeholders are on this forum. So that will be a great platform to participate in. I am currently a member, but to participate more fully in that forum, and also to be more involved in provincial health policy meetings, which they have on a monthly basis, where our provincial health policymakers would come all the way from Bishu to have those type of meetings. So to be more involved in those health policy meetings. And the second question is was being able to reach community members from outreach programs by testing for TB. We didn't only test for TB, but we received the results, and all results that came back positive. We did home visits and made sure that those patients were linked to a clinic close by for them to start TB treatment. Also, school education programs, we would go to different schools and educate about TB, especially teachers, and the norms and the do's and the don'ts, especially in children with TB, and also being able to identify TB at home as well, by being very careful with TB and COVID. So we love doing outdoors and reaching communities by going to shopping centers, handing out TB pamphlets, giving information about TB, and making the community, educating the community more about TB and also HIV/AIDS. Thank you.
That was fast, Mary, and thanks for letting us know about your new hospital name. I always prefer to tell people that you are from Port Elizabeth. Makes my geographic brain works a little better. Thank you for your work. This is an excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Let's now move to Georgia. Let's go to Eastern Europe. My friend Dato Jikia. Dato, do you have your microphone on? David Jikia?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
So, hello. The first question that's stated to provide two main goals our CAB site intends to reach in advocacy work in the near future is that advocacy in regions is our goal for now, to start advocacy in the regions of Georgia, and already several regional advocacy meetings has started. The second goal was to strengthening the relationship with governmental and non-governmental organizations through forums and meetings in central cities of Georgia. Regarding the second question about since forming your CAB around TB Alliance studies, which are your three major accomplishments in advocacy initiatives in your local or national context. On the local level, we have more opportunity to work with the patients, sharing information with them regarding research and working on adherence and retention. We also created a Facebook page, as well as soon our TB general TB CAB webpage will be finalized. On the national level, it is generalizing experience and creating single permanent CAB for all TB related research, and also creating a plan to share this experience with different medical directions, for example, oncology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. I think it's great to hear how you guys are strengthening your capacities and your partnerships within the country and regionally. You are doing a great work, and we are very proud of you and thankful for the work you guys do. Let's from Eastern Europe to Tanzania again, Kilimanjaro. I'm sorry that Bagamoyo was not able to join due to technical problems, but we have from Tanzania, Alan, over to you.
Yes. My name is Alan Senkoro from Kilimanjaro Clinical Research Institute. I'm here to present for information from our site, which is Moshi, Sia District. We start from the first question. Is the two main goals intended to reach advocacy work in the further for the near future. We start for meetings with the research tuberculosis patients. At Kibongoto Infectious Disease Hospital, there are 3 studies going on. The role of community advisory board is to ensure the patient have understood the objective of the research. He or she is involved and he or she has assigned informed consent. Any observation will be reported to the coordinator. Second, conduct meeting at Sia District in July 2021. The Sia District revised the CAB members, so it's high time to arrange a meeting for the activity for 4th quarters, October to December. This might be visiting the policy makers and the previous TB patients. Second question, since you're forming your CAB around the TB Alliance studies, we start for sensitization of TB basic in primary and secondary school of Kilimanjaro region, covered 60%. And the second, sensitization of TB basic in health facilities of Kilimanjaro region, covered 70%. And third, giving the knowledge of TB is region sites, mosques and the churches, covered 40%. And giving the knowledge of TB public areas, marketing and bus stand, covered 30%. And the picture you see is the magnificent secondary school where it educates the people about TB. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. I mean, this is so exciting to see how much you have reached out to the communities by means of different activities in the markets, in the mosques and churches, and the health facilities. This is quite impressive. Thank you so much. Let's now move now to back to South Africa, to Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, King Dinizulu. Dudu, good to see you, hear you.
Yes, thank you. Welcome to eThekwini or Durban. Can you hear me?
Very well. Go.
Thank you. Hello and greetings to everyone in this wonderful gathering of people who are dedicated in fighting this monster called tuberculosis. Like the rest of South Africa, KZN or KwaZulu-Natal is a very diverse community. That diversity comes with a myriad of challenges, but nevertheless, we have gone a long way in learning to live harmonious in that diversity, as in our 27 years of democracy. By that, I'm trying to tell you, colleagues, that we have a lot to advocate for, as eThekwini is a metropole. There is always scarcity of resources, be it personnel, material, or financial. As for 2 goals, our main goals that our CAP intends to reach in a near future. in our advocacy work in the near future is in provincial level. Our provincial Department of Health is divided in 11 districts, eThekwini or Durban being the largest and the very diverse because of it is a metropole. It's a target place of everyone. There is a multi-sectoral structure that is housed in the office of the Premier. Research sector is also part of that structure, where we want to impact and use that platform to disseminate past, current, and future research results. On ground level too, we want to take along with us all communities, especially the historically disadvantaged in terms of research and medication or treatment literacy. Our major accomplishments in advocacy initiatives in our timeline with TB Alliance studies are as follows. eThekwini is a part of that structure that is housed in the office of the Premier, as I said before, which is a multi-sectoral response of implementation plan for HIV, TB, and STI campaign that started from 2017 to 2020. Second, we recruited one member of a local government recognized African traditional medicine practitioners from their executive of a district called eThekwini, the largest one. We have successfully done 3 community outreach initiatives in partnership with traditional leadership now, not the traditional medicine practitioners, but the leadership, chiefs, inkosis, indunas, and even the monarch, as we have a monarch in this province. Yes, and we are lucky in this province that even the monarch is interested in treating the TB. As a person of no lesser than His Royal Highness, the Prince, the son of the late King Zwelithini, who has been working with the current Deputy Minister of Health in South Africa, who was then in 2017 ahead in our province of health services. Our Prince has been since 2017 and a TB ambassador, and he is a TB survivor himself. That is in the public domain because it's in your fingertips there in Google. If you know the name, you can Google the name and find all the information about the Prince, who was TB ambassador with our current Deputy Minister of Health in South Africa. And there are many people.
What you are saying is quite important. The fact that you have His Highness the Zulu monarch playing the role of TB ambassador and being an advocate is fundamental. And it's an excellent example, not only for the Zulu community, but for also South Africa, for all Africa, for the whole world. Thank you so much for that. Do we have? I'm sorry, we have to move to the next one. We are very late with time. Sorry for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Let's go now to Madinbank. Aubrey.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Aubrey here from Madinbank Center for Research as a CAG member, and thank you very much, Tavora, for a very moving, very inspirational information in this webinar. What we do here at Madiben Center for Research is, especially on the two main goals that we intend to reach as an advocacy in the work in the near future, is that we look to advocate for governments and other funders to support the development of the new, shorter, effective TB drugs that are urgently needed to fight TB, while also building capacity of CAC members. And when we talk CAC, when we talk building capacity, of course, there's training, there are regular meetings, which speaks specifically to information sharing, which then goes to community. But again, we also look to advocate with governments at local and national levels for the health rights of local people at risk of TB. Now, on the three major complements in this advocacy initiative, we seek to prevent TB making people ill, to provide the care everyone affected by TB needs, and to control the spread of the infection. We also, in our field programs, involve local non-governmental organizations to work on a daily basis with people at risk of TB. Now, these organizations are best placed to help local communities because they understand their socio-economic challenges and cultural barriers to TB testing, diagnosis, and treatment. And then finally, we then develop the role of communities and people personally affected by TB, because we have a feeling here that the best advocates for action on TB are people who have personal experiences of the disease. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Aubrey, to put the wording like this. I do agree with you. I think we are a bit biased, but it's excellent that we put these words forward. Thank you so much. Let's now move to Beya in Tanzania. Back to Tanzania. Simeon, is your mic on?
Simeon, if you're on your own line, could you raise your hand so I can unmute?
Beya, Simeon, we don't hear you. We don't see your hand. So we are a bit behind the schedule. Can we then move to Moldova and then come back to yeah?
We can. Yeah, Erica, if you have Simeon with you, just send me a note and we'll come back.
Alexandru, my friend from Moldova, over to you.
Good day to everyone. My name is Alexandru, and I will speak today on behalf of Moldova CAP. Thank you, Ezio, very much. Firstly, we want to say that our main and general goal is to increase interest for engagement in research and development among TB patients, civil society, and TB governmental stakeholders. Actually, there are a lot of advocacy initiatives that our CAB members are engaged with. However, more specifically for CE, in the near future, we will focus on advocating for including short TB treatment regimens in National TB Clinical Protocol based on recent preliminary results of TB clinical trials. And by this, we mean to start a dialogue with NTP on necessity of short regimens and prepare a good base for further action, including advocacy for BPAL regimens for pre and XR TB as soon as final results are available. As well, we are planning on participating to the annual National Physiopneumology Forum with the goal of presenting in front of all TB doctors across the country the preliminary Xenix trial results and rationale for community engagement. Regarding our accomplishments, advocating for community engagement at TB, Technical Working Group, NTP, and National TB Institute, it is almost a basic thing now. If there is a chance coming by, we'll always use it to speak on community engagement. And little by little, people start to get the importance of community engagement over here. And that's why we think it is important just to speak up. A meaningful achievement is participating in the development of National TB program for the next 5 years and advocating for including as well a specific research and development objective and a specific indicator for the NTP. And namely, a number of clinical and operational research that the results of which have been taken into consideration and implemented in the context of routine program. And the last is including representative of CAB as member of Committee of Ethics, and we already talked about this. So thanks everyone for attention. That would be all for now. Ezra, over to you.
Thank you, Alexandro. This is quite impressive, the work you guys are doing in not only in Moldova about engaging communities and the discussion of research in country level, but also in the regional level and international level. Oksana now is a member of the Global TB CAB as well, and you guys are doing a tremendous work with your activities down in the country and in the region. Thank you so much. We are now moved back to South Africa for the UCT Lung Institute in Cape Town. Chael?
Hi, good day. I'm Chael from the UCT Lung Institute, Cape Town. So for our first question, please provide two main goals our CAB or site intends to reach in advocacy work in the near future. So to create more awareness and education about TB, especially during the COVID epidemic, where the people are prioritizing COVID health, knowledge, and promotion. Our second point to that would be to engage with government sectors and associate stockholders about the TB-related concerns, such as food security or parcels for TB patients. The issue for defaulting among TB patients and how this can be addressed with community workers to support struggling patients. Our third point, to create or join a local TB forum. Then we go on to the next question. Since forming our CAB around TB Alliance studies, partnering with the local health facilities to create awareness in our community and taking testing or screening services directly to the community. Lack of knowledge, transport, waiting times are barriers for using clinical service. Our second point would be we identified TB hotspots in the areas that are also far from a clinic. These communities are informal and very resource scarce. We organized with the City of Cape Town's Health to provide testing and screening services, and refreshments were given to community members. Also, working with the youth advocate to empower them to be peer leaders, building a group of health ambassadors, working towards better awareness, social change, and positive health behaviors in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chael. It's quite important to have, like you do in Cape Town, the example of how you are using the facilities and the health unit to promote health and to discuss policy and to bring that into the local government. That's very important for us to keep in mind. Thank you so much for your work. Now let's move back from Zodden, South Africa, back to Mbeya in Tanzania, Eastern Africa. We have Simeon now. Simeon, over to you.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Simeon Mwanyonga from Nimri Mbeya Medical Research Center, Tanzania. Concerning the main goals for in advocates work in the near future, we expect to bring members and the CBOs into a full understanding of TB vaccines and drug trials for effective implementation of the TB study in CAB meetings and community sensitization meetings. But secondly, to link larger community.
Simeon, it seems that we lost you.
Education. Hello?
Yes, now you're back. We lost you for a couple of seconds. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. It seems we lost you again, Simeon. Can you reconnect? Do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. For the second point on the goal.
Apologies. It seems that it's coming and going. I'm sorry for that, Simeon. It's coming and go. We cannot hear you well. If you can summarize. Yes, we can. It goes, it comes and goes. Apologies for that. It's technical problems. Sorry. Yeah, variation of connection.
Yeah, maybe we have a bad connection here, but do you hear me now?
We do. Yeah, can you conclude? Yes, thank you.
Yes, yes. So let me continue to the accomplishments of in advocacy initiatives in our local and national context. Yeah, our CAB contributed to the success of more than 10 TB studies conducted at our site by fully participating in community engagement activities, which brings about successful recruitment and retention. But also they involve CAB meetings and other community engagement forums wherever they happen, and sharing global knowledge on community engagement activities, and also being a CAB of have to learn from. Also to ensure interaction and relationship between researchers and researchers, CAB members, and the community in our local area and nationwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Simeon, and apologies for interrupting you, but your connection was failing partially. Thank you so much. We heard you very well. Now let's move. Let's stay in Tanzania, but to Mwanza. Edit. Your microphone is off. Edit. Edit from Mwanza, Tanzania.
Could you please raise your hand so I can see the name? Sorry, I'm not seeing that. Is anyone else? Oh, there we go. No. Great.
It's Erica. Edith is with Christine. I don't know what's wrong with them. I'm in Mbeya. Can you go to someone else and I'll check them?
I see Christine. I can.
If you say Christine, she should be with us.
There we go. Christine, if you can unmute yourself, that's perfect.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you. Please.
Yes,
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Edison Gawi, Nimri, Mwanza, Tanzania. Hello.
Yes, we hear you, but can you speak closer to the microphone so that we hear you better? We hear echo. Can you speak closer to the microphone?
Okay, thank you.
Better now. Thank you so much.
About question number 1, we intended to continue with community awareness through local radio session on TB research. And we intend to collaborate more with health facilities to conduct TB screening in our communities at large. Also, we organize community awareness through seminars and dialogue on TB consciousness, rising community awareness, engagement, and testing on World TB Day. Question number 2, as CAB in Mwanza, in collaboration with NIMRI Mwanza, we have successfully managed to screen participant Simplicity TB research. Also, has conducted door-to-door family visitation to patients and link them to health facilities. And last one, we conducted community awareness through community dialogues, for example, here in Mwanza in Butimba ward. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the floor. Thank you. We are very happy to hear Mwanza and our Tanzania colleagues. But now let's move back to South Africa, to Seth Shaba. Yvonne. Yvonne, do you have microphone open?
Kahiso, do you have Yvonne with you? I don't see Yvonne on the line right now.
Hello?
Yes, now we hear you.
Thanks a lot. My name is Yvonne Vilakazi from South Africa as a CAP member from Sechava Research Center. I'll be giving the points that we discuss as CAP regarding the questions that you pose for us. The first one of provide 2 main goals your CAP or site intends to reach in advocacy work in the near future. As a CAP, we wish to have our own budget for us to run any program activities for the community without challenges of finance. The second point, we have platform of engaging with other global CAP forums, discussing the plan of action according to our differences we encounter on the study sites and how to improve on disseminating information to community as large. And also to see TB as an emergency as COVID-19. When they screen for COVID-19, they must also screen for TB. That's our main goal for us as CAP of Sechava, so that each and every person from the community can have a free participation in part of testing on TB and other diseases that is supposed to be tested by every community member. And the second question is, since forming your CAP around TB Alliance studies, which are your 3 major accomplishments in advocacy initiative in your local or national context? We as CAP members, we assisted the LCOs of the Sechava Research Center at the clinics with screening patients and community for COVID-19. And we also play part of TB study, recruitment, and also TB awareness. And again, we also assist as CAP members in the clinics on adherence concerning a TB, because some of the patients in the clinic, sometimes their morale is too low so that they cannot accept that they are having this kind of disease, and whereby it can be healed if you take a treatment in time. Then this is our main goal, to assist ESCAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for bringing this goals to use the platform of engaging and working and thinking in connection with other disease, especially when you are dealing with COVID in the country, about screening. Thank you so much to, again, an excellent example of the clinic work being a way to reach out to policy. Thank you so much. Let's now move to task in South Africa. Over to you, Sintu.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm also from task. It's not Sintu. Basically, we want to submit our apology as well that we are facing load shedding premises, power failures. So that's why we request to present next. But nevertheless, thank you very much. The first question we just responded according to our presentation is that we participate. In fact, our aim is to participate in national health committees. This enables the CAP to have a voice on big decisions taken nationally. That's what we seek to achieve. Also is to collaborate with health workers in all spectrum of our health to ensure that there is a better understanding of research, even outside the clinical research parameters, because this has shown to be a foreign topic to healthcare workers who are not in research. This is what we are experiencing on the ground in all different areas where our health workers work, especially the home-based carers, and other people that work in the vicinity of health. That's why we seek to make sure that we want to reach that in the future, and we are in progress around that. Since the forming of our CAP around TB Alliance studies, which are the three major complements in advocacy initiatives in your local or national context. We've tried to summarize because there are a lot of things that we have done since the forming our CAP. But one is to influence a local education organization like Early Birds Academy to utilize and include the TB Alliance Early Childhood TB Education booklet in their curriculum. I think that's a highlight. That's an accomplishment on our side. We are now currently working with high schools on our TB education schools program, which has made the CAP to be the goal to the people when it comes to research education and infectious disease education in their own communities. Not only on TB, because that's the feedback that we get from the high schools is that there's a lot that needs to be done. So this education, especially on TB, is one of the achievements that we think as well that has put us on the map. We've worked closely with various prominent stakeholders to narrow the gap we have in TB. We're ensuring we get TB research education far and wide enough. This includes industrial factories where there was a high TB infection rate. The awareness we implemented has shown willingness to participate in research and also stop stigma against those who have TB. We've done that in one of the factories that is producing shoes here in Cape Town. And as we speak, the rate of infection has dropped drastically since we had those workshops with the workers there. We also, being one of the highlights as well, being part of the breakthrough of an official idaquilin study drug. That's an achievement on our side, which will help our community, is also a highlight. And of course, what we have not included here as well was also to be inclusive of the discussions in the building up of the pediatric friendly fizzy pill that you dissolve in water when it was developed. We had input there, and we're grateful that we've been part and parcel of that, because now currently it's being used and it has been approved and it's easy to be consumed by the children. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's the highlight of what we want to present as task cap, both from Fulani and Taft. Thank you very much.
Sintu, thank you so much for this presentation, and it's so great to hear about your achievements by means of education of people, and for the different strategies that you have been setting with the local industry and with the different activities in Cape Town. Thank you so much. Let's now go to Peter Maritzburg and KwaZulu-Natal with Think.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's just afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. I think I'll be short and straight to the point. I'm presenting on behalf of our CAP. I think I've got two CAP where I'm also joining Chris and Tutuzili. So to go for the first questions, where it's saying that, so what is our goals? Our goal as a CAP is to have the voice and participate in a treatment action campaign within the districts. The reason why we want to be part of this treatment action campaign, because it seems as if more work, less work has been done on TB. There's more work on HIV prevention and HIV treatment. So we want to put the TB work and also introduce the TB survivors and TB network in this TAC. We're also looking on the recognition of CAP members as a sector in the civil society forum, because at the moment, civil society are just the NGOs and other sectors, but we've just realized, and then it's been introduced through our chairperson of the provincial civil society that CAP need to be represented. So this is our goal. Our next goal is to have a workshop of all the CAP within the province. The first thing that we have done, the task was given to map all the CAP members and the research sectors within the province. So looking at the number 2, what are 3 major accomplishments in the advocacy? Our CAP has been trained and empowered on the TB advocacy. The training was done, including where we have a dialogue with our TB patient and the TB survivors. And then through that dialogue, our TB patient have some issues while they were still in the health facilities being treated with this TB, and then those issues were taken back by the CAP, and then we established a training so that we can form the advocacy on this. And they were also able to identify the advocacy need within the community. From that dialogue, the CAP were able to map and then identify the advocacy needs within the community. They also being in engagement with TB survivors in a community dialogue session. Looking at the TB survivors, as I've been saying in the first question on the treatment action campaign, that more work and more recognition have been given to HIV activists, but less work with the TB. So as Think, we form that network so that our TB survivors can share their stories. So they were trained together with the CAP on how they can use their stories for adherence and advocacy issues. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Dudu, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hear you, and it's so good to see your engagement with Treatment Action Campaign and all the work that you are doing also with AIDS advocates. I mean, we are talking always about people-centered work, and we don't have a person with a different person living with TB and other with HIV. I mean, we are affected in sometimes equally by both diseases. So that's the great work that I think has been doing and strategizing in South Africa. Thank you so much. But now let's go to the Pacific area, to the Philippines, the other side of the world, to the Tropical Disease Foundation in the Philippines. Over to Rolene.
Yes, hello, good day. So for our site, actually, we plan to be able to involve the volunteers that we're enlisting for with our current program to be involved as well for other projects that the foundation is currently offering for new services for TB patients as well. Not just be specific for TB patients, but for the general community. And we plan that through enlisting the support and participation of the local TB medical advisory committees. These are usually the group of TB physicians in the city that we may be able to enlist or perhaps recruit or even expand the capacity of the volunteers that we are actually now engaged with. Now, since the forming of the CAB around the studies, actually, since then, we've been the process of introducing new studies to the local health offices have now been easier, which is really great, especially during the current pandemic, wherein we cannot meet with them face to face. So it's good that they are already familiar with how the clinical trials are conducted, and usually why we are engaging the communities, why we are enlisting their endorsements or support. So the process has now been generally easier as well as quicker. And speaking of speed, actually, from the further down at the local health centers, actually, we are now, once that they have been endorsed by the local health officials, the referrals actually now come in much quicker. So usually we'd have to wait around 2 to 4 weeks before we've had to follow up the local health centers, but now they've been enthusiastic in referring patients to us since they already know that the significance of these studies, as well as the level of care that we provide the patients or the participants for the studies. They no longer view studies or clinical trials as people who participate in them as for lack of a better term, guinea pigs for study, but they've known that the larger picture, especially during this time of COVID, wherein essentially the process of drug development has been put in the spotlight. So it has turned out really well. Of course, I think the biggest accomplishment for this is that we've been able to continue the advocacy for TB, wherein during this time wherein everything has been COVID, to the point that everything has been saturated and people are essentially tired of hearing about health concerns or health news, that we've been able to maintain the struggle or the fight against TB to end disease in the spotlight, and why it continues to be relevant even at during this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rolene. I think this is quite important for engaging the Medical Advisory Committee for TB with the principles of community engagement and having a better understanding of what community engagement means in terms of benefit for the country beyond just recruitment aspects, etc. So it's very important, the work that you guys are doing down in the Philippines, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now let's move to Chepong, South Africa.
Good day, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
My name is Vitumelo Simelo, and I am the community liaison manager at Chepong Hospital under PHRU. The two main goals that our CAP site intends to reach in advocacy work in the near future are as follows. The first one is to collaborate with other stakeholders within the sub-district. For example, the local AIDS council, which it was formed under the Northwest Premier office, and this will strengthen the relations with other organizations within Matlosana. The second goal is to continue with in-house trainings for our CAP members, which we aim to empower them to confidently drive health promotions and their knowledge with regards to research and projects within the organization. Since forming our CAP around TB Alliance studies, our three major accomplishments are: we have actively built strong relations with the community members in our surrounding locations and areas of operations that our research studies work in. We have organizations approaching us for more information and possible participation in our research studies, especially because we've been working with our local radio stations and our local newspapers, writing articles about the studies that we have in PHRU and the target group that we are targeting within our studies. So we get people coming to PHRU asking to be part of the studies, and other organizations wanting to know more about our studies and CAB. And so we've attracted more people to join us. With the events we have had in our local communities, we have already gained a momentum with our working structures or stakeholders that we have worked with together in promoting and improving the livelihoods of our community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Boitumelo. It's so great to hear you and your experience. And I would like to invite now our last speaker back to Tanzania, to Bagamoyo. I think now we have our friend Abdul Hai. Do we have Abdul? Yes.
Hello, I'm speaking from Bagamoyo. I'm Omar Juma. Today, Mr. Hai is sick, so I will speak on behalf of our chairman, Mr. Abdul Hai. So in this site, we in near future we plan to increase the advocacy on the community case identification by using the community-based organization. And we have already have a group, a community-based group, which we call the TB Hunter, which already did some work to identify case, household case detection, because it seems that still there's many TB patients, they are at home without any investigation or any treatment. So we are working together with this group to do our advocacy so that we can do more case identification by using the community-based group. And for second, we plan to do advocacy in TB drug, because now based on our previous clinical trial, it means that we already have a group of new TB drug, which soon will be established in our healthcare system in Tanzania. So we prepare people to know that now TB is treatable and now can be treated, soon will be treated in very short time, not like before. And for the second question, we already accomplished about more than 3, but the major one is for local we managed to advocate our research literacy to majority. People now in Bagamoyo are very aware of, for example, for TB studies. They know about their ethics, they know about their participation, they know about their compensation. And second, work for our CAP now in Bagamoyo is known national and international. Now we appreciate some of the scientists from other sites. They are coming Bagamoyo to learn about our CAB, how we established the CAB, and how CAB it works. So now our CAB is known now, national and international. And lastly, we want to we manage to advocacy in ethics in research, because this is main issues in Tanzania. Some people, especially in the village, some people prefer, they consider them the guinea pig, participated in a clinical trial, but the work of CAB was to establish the idea that participation in a clinical trial is not the guinea pig issues. It's just something which you need voluntary to participate, and you have a right to decide, and there's some ethics, and even there's some compensation. So this is our main establishment here in Bagamoyo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's great that we heard all the sites in Tanzania as well. So we heard all the sites, and it's incredible how you guys were bringing everything that we were discussing earlier today. I mean, it's clear that everybody is moving in the idea of setting an agenda. When you address some activities, when you plan different activities that you all mentioned, you have clarity on who are the stakeholders, who matters in the area. Sometimes we just have to structure that idea in order to have a clear agenda of how to move. You know the actors, you know how important they are, and maybe we have to pay attention in the way we are doing things to strategize and improve the quality of the outcome that we intend. Yeah, it's clear that we heard about so many important activities and experiences that we had in all the presentations. So I am very excited about this opportunity that we have with each and every one of you to engage in a further discussion. We will have two very exciting sessions in October and November. The dates are still to be defined. They are still tentative, as Gregorio was showing before. We will confirm to you the dates, the precise dates in October and November, but we are going to move ahead. I mean, everything that we discuss, I mean, you prove it yourself that you are doing that. So we have all the capacity. The capacity is there. We just have to refine the goals and the objectives so that we reach out to improve the quality and to tackle the problems that we have. With no further ado, I would like to thank every and each participant. Thanks for those who stayed for 2.5 hours in the session. Thank you so much for staying with us. We have 40 participants still with us today after 2.5 hours. And I would like Stephanie to say a few last words. Over to Stephanie, and thank you very much.
Of course. Ezio, thank you so much for facilitating another great session. I won't keep us any longer. Thank you all so much for attending, and we will follow up very soon with a summary of the call today, with a recording in English, Portuguese, and Russian, and a copy of the slides. We'll also follow up with each of you, probably individually. It sounds like we're really getting into the meat of the advocacy training part of this series. And so there will be some preparation for the next webinar in October, and we'll be reaching out to each of you very soon. All right,
Thank
have
you
a
very much,
wonderful
Jennifer.
day.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good day. Bye.
Bye,
Thank
bye,
you. Bye.
bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Ezio. Thank you very
Good
much.
night,
My friends.
Philippines.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.